Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Jeana Alayaay. I'm going to talk to you about balanced teams today. I wish I could be there with you in person. I love unconferences. I actually used to run the Lean Startup Circle in San Francisco, which is also an unconference. But I'm happy to be talking to you anyways. So today I wanted to give you an introduction to balanced teams, give you a little bit about where it came from and where it's going and what we're doing with it at Pivotal Labs. Hold on. The slide's working.
We're still on the first slide right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Please keep in touch on Twitter or over email. Love to hear your thoughts. Love to continue to discuss. I'm in Tokyo right now, but actually returning to San Francisco in November. So if you find yourself in San Francisco, please let me know. Happy to hang out. This is a little bit about me. I'm currently at Pivotal Labs. Was with Lean Startup Circle in San Francisco and came from Luxor. I heard Jason Frazier had talked to you maybe, I guess, a month or two ago. Before that at Victoria's Secret. If you're interested to hear more about sort of how I got to be a product manager, again, please send me an email. Happy to chat about it. So what's this all about? So what is Balanced Team all about? So I wanted to get some misnomers out of the way. So this presentation is not about, it's not the key to better, faster deliverables, right? That's a byproduct of Balanced Team, but that's not what this is about. This isn't about a greater discourse about if and how people processes should evolve to meet market demands. And this is a way for you to help other people understand team management philosophies and what might be a good team management philosophy for them. So I've made some assumptions today. So the first assumption is you want to deliver value to users today. You believe an iterative approach is better than its alternatives. Working as a team is not always easy or smooth. And you're at least familiar with Agile Manifesto and Lean Startup concepts. So here's a visual I think you're all familiar with. I like to think of this as waterfall, the experience of waterfall. Everyone's in a raft here. They're going down. It's really scary. It hurts. This isn't the world that I want to live in, right? This is one of the reasons that I'm at Pivotal Labs. And I think this next slide you'll also be familiar with. So this is sort of the traditional way to think about product management, which is to say, like, here's this little product owner or product manager who's in the middle, and they're stuck in this terrible sandwich between the rest of the world and developers, and there's a lot of pressure there. And when things go great, you're a hero. When things don't go great, you're a martyr. And that's not really I don't think that's a great way to be. And I don't think that actually yields the best types of products. I think this is another pattern you might be familiar with. I refer to this as the heroism model. This is something we're very familiar with in the tech industry. This idea about gurus and rock stars and mini CEOs, and this idea that one discipline can be this like hero of sorts. And I think that's also not the best way to build products. So what do I think is the best way? Well, I'm an advocate of Balanced Team. And what is Balanced Team? This is actually the definition straight from the Balanced Team community. Balanced Team is a group of people who are interested in furthering processes and methodologies to create great things. We welcome people who want to wear many hats. So this can be anybody. And we value multidisciplinary collaboration and iterative delivery focused on customer value as a source of innovation. So again, this is the definition straight from the community. So a brief history about it. So Balanced Team grew from the contributions of many people. Here's a picture of one of the first Balanced Team meetups, so to speak. I think this was in the early 2000s. So during August 2009, there was what some people refer to as the Agile evolution. And people spent a lot of time talking about how to blend Agile and UX. And these two communities wanted to figure out how to communicate better, include other disciplines as well. They decided the best way to advance this was to bring together like-minded people in a retreat and see what happened. And so the first Agile UX retreat was a 2-day event at Cooper. And the key insight was no more us and them thinking. It was more together. And they worked on something called the Human Manifesto. And there were problem statements around that. And in 2010, they had another UX retreat And they brainstormed new names for this community, and they decided that balance was the most indicative of what they wanted. And from there, the community built out. And so here we are in 2016. Again, I'm an advocate of this, and at Pivotal Labs, I'm trying to figure out what Balance Team looks like for tech companies today and what it looks like at scale. So what about Balance Team in the early days? So the Balance Team in the early days was this idea that we have 3 arms, or also referred to as the stool. You have UX and design, biz and PM, and dev and engineering. And this is sort of where Balance Team started originally. And that was a great role-specific way to think about the world, and really worked especially in the 2000s for talking about how to deliver great products. But I think some market things have changed. So the market has definitely changed. It's no longer first to market, but best in market. There's growing access to technology and changed consumer expectations about product experiences. Consumers have a lot of options, multi-part products and services. So we have phone connected to wearables, connected to web, connected to in-store experiences. Again, this is multi-platform, and we have really complex value chains. So my proposal is that the user experience is actually end-to-end. So it includes all parts of an experience, not just software or UI, right? So I believe that the goal of product teams is to actually solve for this full experience, not just what happens with the software, not just what happens with the UI. I gave some examples of products here with complex value chains. Amazon Prime, Primaire, which is about using drones to deliver packages. I have Roar here, which is a wearable for women, where they can use the application to program their favorite contacts, and if they feel threatened when they're walking home at night, they're able to press the device, and that device then contacts everybody in that contact list. And I think the Google self-driving car project, which I think a lot of you are probably familiar with. So again, like, my proposal is that software is actually part of a larger experience. And as a product team and as product managers, we have to be thinking about how that experience is stitched end to end, not just at the UI level. So what does that mean? It means I think that we need decision-specific participants rather than role-specific things. So we've got, this is very similar to the previous thing that you saw, which was an earlier Balance Team visual, but here's an updated one. And I've removed the role-specific things out of here. So what do I take design mean? I take design to mean that there are problems that we're identifying, that we prioritize those problems. What do I mean by technology? I mean all available technology that solves that problem. Again, this isn't just software. This can be hardware. This can be manufacturing related things. And the business. Somebody has to be in, somebody's job has to be to worry about the operation of the thing, the making of the money, you know, how to continue to grow over time. So why do I think this 3 is the number? So I wish usually I do this in person as a demonstration, but this is about the number of handshakes it takes. So the equation here is n times n minus 2, sorry, n times n minus 1 over 2. And this is about the number of handshakes, again, it takes for everybody to meet. And if you think about it, the more handshakes you have, the more meeting you have. And people feel like they can stop talking when they're understood. And so when you get teams at scale, this all becomes very complicated, right? And so it takes many, many people to get what people refer to as buy-in or consensus. And what I'm advocating for is that instead of having all of these people, why don't we send three people who represent design and business and technology to make decisions, make product decisions together. These 3 people don't need to be the same people. They don't need to be executives. They can be whoever is right for that particular decision, but that 3 is the number. And we can talk about that more later. So why is that the case? Again, I'm sort of belaboring this point, but there's a lot of overlap here, right? And we're gonna need different people to touch on these different things. And this idea that we can all know all of the things at all the time, I just don't think is true, right? And as product managers, we certainly can't know everything. And I think that there's a large part about deciding figuring out who actually knows and who can I actually delegate this decision to? Like, who is the best person to make this decision? So product teams at work. So what is it that we do as product teams? So and this is general, I think we prioritize the work, we imagine the experience, we foster improvement, we execute the plans, we understand the people that we're connected to, we reconcile the details, untangle the architecture, and disambiguate everything. And that's a lot of work. So what do I think balanced team patterns look like for product teams? Well, I think there's 5 things. Empathy, trust through suspension of disbelief, mutual respect of other people's crafts, 1 product team, and 5 whys as the basis of process. So for the first one, we talk a lot about having empathy for the users, and this is really important. But the best way to build this into the process is by being empathetic towards our teammates first. Remind yourself that their job is hard. They'll have bad days. They'll make mistakes. They are trying their best. To the second point, I believe that right now, you're making the best decision you can make with the information that's available to you. Again, this is this bit about trust through the suspension of disbelief. Sometimes you will understand or agree with their decisions, and that's okay. They can't know all the things, and neither can you. So think about how this might change your verbiage. So avoid voicing opinions as statements of fact. So lead with I believe, I feel, I can imagine, are often better for starting conversations, especially when you think you might disagree. So about this being somebody's craft, this is not just somebody's hobby. Your colleague has devoted their career to honing a particular craft. It's not as simple as they make it look. This is often a problem with how other roles like product managers, developers view designers' work, because most human beings are empathetic, of course, unless they're sociopaths, because they have feelings about what looks good. Design feels more accessible than code or the work of PMs, right? But remind yourself that the interface is just an output, and all the work that happens before is manifested as hard, and designers spend many years getting good at this. And just because you have feelings about what good design is doesn't mean you're a designer. Also, instead of focusing on what makes your crafts different, think on what makes your craft similar. Your work is probably interesting to your teammates, and try finding common language with them. So 1 product team, what's that about? The product team does not just refer to the product manager and designers. Everyone devoted to delivering value to the user is part of the product team. So get excited, stay interested, your teammates are doing cool shit. So number 5 whys. For those of you who are familiar with Agile, this comes straight from there. This is about root cause analysis. So this is a tool straight from the Agile handbook, and this is about not jumping to conclusions about what the problem is. Instead, ask 5 whys. Once you identify the first problem, ask yourself, is that the root cause? And go back and back and back 5 times to make sure that you're solving the actual problem and not some symptom of the problem. So as balanced teamers, what sort of tools do we need? Well, I think it's actually pretty simple. Leadership, facilitation, process. So leadership, what does that mean? It means you're a facilitator. As balanced teamers, we're all facilitators. We're not dictators, nor are we heroes or martyrs. We're pragmatic, not dogmatic. We have philosophical conversations about why we're here and why we're doing the things we're doing. And we don't strive for consensus or democracy. Decisions are made for the purpose of moving the team forward. This is really the most important thing I'd like you to walk away with for balanced team. Again, decisions are made for the purpose of moving the team forward, and all of our decisions should be made with that in mind. So facilitation, what does that mean? Well, it means we're not going into corners and coming back with decisions. It means we're getting the right minds into the room, we're extracting the best available knowledge, and help the team imagine all of the possibilities and solutions. Sometimes that means somebody has to make a call, and this is a call made in service to the team, so the team can move forward with confidence. What about process? Well, facilitate processes that serve your team's goal and engender trust. Processes should change as your goals change, and the team does not serve the process serves them. So what does that mean for specific roles that you might be familiar with? Well, for design, in the balanced team world, we refer to the designer as the empathizer in chief. So what is their obligation to the team? It's to understand the customer at an expert level, translate high-value needs into product, hone their craft, and facilitate balance. And the one core responsibility here is prioritizing customer problems. So for development, we often say, raise high the roof beams. So what are they doing? So they're envisioning the best solution based on available technology. They're committing to the customer outcome, honing their craft, obviously, facilitating also. But they're, above all else, making sure that the technology serves the problem solution set. In this world, development does not create technology for technology's sake. Again, we're all coming together, making sure we understand what the customer's problems are, prioritizing those problems, imagining solutions together, and the developers are making sure that the technology is actually serving that problem solution set. So product management. For those of you in there, you're probably very interested about this. I'm a product manager myself. I think a lot about this piece. So Janice Fraser refers to this as the scales of justice. And what's our obligation? It's to make fast, concrete decisions despite inadequate evidence and conflicting priorities. It's about identifying business value and customer needs, honing the craft, and above all else, acting in service to the team. And this is a very different view of the world than sort of the view that is put forth right now about this product managers being the head of the team or the mini CEO or whatever the case may be. In balanced team land, what I really believe is that we're saying we're the service provider to the team. It's our job to shepherd decisions, not make all of them. So what is this all about? So for those of you who are familiar with Kent Beck is the founder of Extreme Programming, which is an engineering discipline that came from Agile. And a lot of this is about leveling up Kent Beck style. So he has these 3 great quotes, and these are my favorite quotes of his. And I'd like to believe that Balanced Team is about these 3 things. So creating an environment where we can say, hey, you can have the courage to speak truths, pleasant or unpleasant, and that is good for communication and trust. That we can discard failing solutions and seek new ones in favor of simplicity, and that we can seek concrete answers to create feedback. So what's the takeaway here? So beyond talk of design or agile, this is a quote from Alan Cooper. What we're really trying to do is figure out how we can all commit to the right things and create great products. And that's actually all I have for you guys today. Again, sorry it's a little bit of a short presentation. Usually I do this in person as an interactive thing so we can talk about the bits, but I would love to get some of your questions. Again, please tweet at me, and work better with less stress and more awesomeness to build products.
We're just going to be opening up to questions.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to open up to questions. If you have any questions, just come around here so she can see your face. It's nice to have. The questions, guys, don't be shy. Okay, we got a question right here.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah. Hi.
Hi.
Is the engineer in the product team?
Yep.
What's their role? What would be their roles in the product team?
An engineer.
Yeah.
Sorry, let me repeat this. So what is the role of the engineer in a product team?
Yeah.
Okay. So in a balanced team, the idea is that the engineer is just part of the product team. This isn't a person it's not as if engineering is separate from PM and design. So I would expect this person to be taking, at least participating in user interviews, user center activities, figuring out how to prioritize these problems, and making sure that we actually understand what the customer's problems are. So it's not that they're not coding, it's that what we're saying is we're not going to throw over product decisions to the developers, that we're actually including them in the decision-making process as we go.
I see. Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks.
All right, we got another question from...
Yeah.
Thank you for the talk. It was very interesting. but it's also very interesting to know your opinion on part-time designers. So let's assume we have many products in the company. So what's your solution for that? Hire more, or what's the workflow?
Yeah, so I'm not sure if this is directly a balanced team concern, but I would say I do have strong opinions about this. I would say, of course, I understand that there are limitations to resources and whatnot, but I would say, yes, it is to hire more designers. So I believe that having part-time designers across multiple projects is actually a symptom of the industry at large not really valuing design at the same level that it values product management and development in that order. So I think that it is ridiculous to think that we can have somebody who's only giving us 2 hours or whatever the amount of time per day of their brain space to thinking about the problem can actually produce really great products. So if the goal of the organization is to create great things, I believe that we need enough designers to do that. When somebody doesn't have enough time or their role isn't well represented in the org, they're always operating from a place of fear and reactivity, right? Like they're going to do whatever they have to do to get it out the quickest, and they're always going to be outnumbered by either developers or product managers. And so they're going to feel like they can't necessarily say the things that are true. So I guess to answer your question, if I could wave a magic wand, I would say, yeah, you should have a full-time designer per product.
All right, thanks for that. More questions, guys? Oh, we got another brave one.
Hi, Jeana. Thank you for the session.
I'm going to
It's
repeat
quite
the question
interesting.
after, right?
Yeah,
Very
sure.
good.
So my question is, if let's say the current situation is the guru, they view product managers as gurus. So how did Pivotal Labs move from this stage to collaborative teams? So I think the problem now is there are too many. Whether the business side people, the designer side, or marketing, and the developers, everybody is thinking in silos. So how did you move from one place to this collaborative group, about having balanced teams? Because I think it's the right approach also.
Yeah, this is a great question. So I can tell you a little bit about the history of balanced team at Pivotal Labs.
Sorry.
Jeana, could you repeat the question as well, please, for everyone?
Or do you want to say the question?
Yeah, let me just say it.
Yeah.
Okay, guys. So the question is, how did Pivotal move from a place where product managers were considered like the god of all things to having a balanced team and balancing it out with the viewpoints of designers, marketing, etc.? So how did you move from where product manager decides everything to making decisions in a better manner? So over to you.
So this actually is a story from 2 years ago, and I would say that it actually began with a conversation about innovation. And so I know that here in the tech industry, we hear a ton about innovation, and everyone wants to innovate. And at Pivotal, we said, well, what does that mean? Like, what does innovation mean for us? And it really came down to building great things at speed. And so we looked around and we said, so what are the problems with, why is it that we're not able to build great things with speed right now? And we identified some symptoms of it. And a lot of it was about silo, was about this interaction between the disciplines, that we had this devs over here and designers over here and product managers sort of lording over them. And we said, what if there's an alternative to this world? Now, Balanced Team existed far before this, 5 years before actually coming to Pivotal. But the difference is that Pivotal has been a XP shop for 25 years, extreme programming. And XP has this incredible egalitarian culture to it that I would say that I haven't seen in other engineering philosophies. And so it was natural that we said, okay, well, this already exists in engineering. This already exists in design. And then we have product managers who are sort of off on their own. And what if we stitch it together? But what this required was actually both people on the top and people on the bottom coming together. So there was executive buy-in to say, hey, like this is the way, this is where we're going. And then we had people who are actually doing the implementation, like myself, who were like, okay, what does this look like? What does it mean for us to be balanced? And we had to come together. I think whenever it comes just from the executives or, just from the grassroots, it doesn't work as well because it really has implications across the org for what it means about decision-making, right? If you're saying that all the decision-making is in the hands of teams and those teams have to make it themselves, right? A lot of the processes that we're familiar with, steering committees, approval processes, things like that, no longer apply. And so this is really about like sort of rethinking the way that the org runs. So again, I think that the only way that it can happen, at least today, is if you have both, executive sponsorship and also grassroots efforts coming at the same time.
Could I add on? Yeah. So what kind of
Why
work?
don't you just
Okay.
1 second. All right, I'll repeat it. So,
I'll just speak louder. So building on this question, what kind of processes, workflows does Pivotal adopt?
Sure. Yeah. So I think that's two-part. I think there's people processes and then methodologies specific to the creation of products that we're all familiar with. So I think the first thing is we sought to change our verbiage. So the way that we actually communicated together was the first thing that we changed. And I touched a little bit on this into the presentation, but I know the presentation was really fast, so I'm sorry about that. But it's really about changing the way you speak to your colleagues and reframing things not as like statements of fact, but saying, hey, I believe that this is true. I feel this way, whatever the case may be, and making it about you and not saying, this is absolutely true and you need to sign on board with this. You have to change the way you physically work. So there's actually a lot of great psychology studies about the way that people communicate across tables. Actually, if you're sitting across from a person, it tends to be an adversarial relationship. And so a lot of it is making decisions standing up, making decisions at the wall where we all feel like we're on equal footing. In terms of methodologies, Balance Team is generally methodology agnostic, but I would say that we favor methodologies that actually are user-centered and pay down debt or risk programmatically. So Lean UX, Lean Startup, those sort of things, or XP, those are the methodologies that we favor. But that's not to say that we don't think other methodologies are great, but we tend to like things that are user-focused and iterative and really make for good collaboration amongst team members.
thank you. Yeah, okay, so we have time for one last question. Yeah, sure. Okay, can you just...
Sure. Okay, I'll talk a bit louder.
No, it's on.
So how would you overcome, you mentioned briefly about talking across the table. So what if the people are located remotely, like in Singapore or where you are, how would you communicate as a team?
So just to repeat the question for the guys at the back, how do you work when people aren't located in the same geographical region?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. That's the question that we've all been thinking about for a while. So what I've noticed with clients of Pivotal Labs is our service arm. And a lot of these are enterprise clients. So these are Fortune 500, Fortune 1000 companies that often have, many offices in many places, distributed teams. They say, well, there's no way that this process can't work for us. And on our own product, which is a PaaS product, Cloud Foundry, we have 60 teams going right now, working across the world. And I would say that the way that we have currently solved this is by saying, when we form a new team, we set aside time for all these people to work together in person. So we try to say 3 months initially for the team before they actually go off and go to wherever they are, London, San Francisco, whatever the case may be. The long story short is that we actually get them in a room for a certain amount of time so that they can actually have some of these conversations and actually be at the wall together and so on and so forth. Now, that's not always possible, but I would say it's a good starting point. That if you want to work as a balanced team and your team is distributed, say to yourself, hey, Is there 2 weeks or 3 weeks or something in the future where we can get together and, of course, work as usual, but really with the focus on working in this new way, which really just means interacting in a new way.
All right, thank you. I think that's about all the time that we have for questions right now. And thanks so much for your inputs. I'm sure everyone took a lot away from it. And we're going to move on to the next part of the session. Thanks, Jeana.
Thanks, guys.
I'm just taking